Good evening. Today is Tuesday, March 19th, and this is the start of the Hanson Board of Selectmen joint meeting with the Hanson Board of Health. This meeting is being televised by Whitman Hanson Cable Access. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we're going to jump right into it. So, under new business, like I said, this is a joint meeting with the Board of Health, and we're discussing the implementation of plastic bags and polystyrene ban in the town of Hanson. So we have Arlene Diaz, who's the chair of the Board of Health, here to join us. Welcome, Arlene. Thank you for coming. And then why don't we have, Matt, why don't we have you start and we can
Sure,
go back and forth?
absolutely. So I think a good way to start off the conversation is just to kind of clarify from last meeting, which was there's two drafts of both potential bans, and there was one draft that said Selectmen that was going to be enforced, and then the other one was saying Department of the Board of Health. And I didn't realize that, so it was just kind of like, ooh, okay, and I could kind of see where the confusion and concerns were, and the miscommunication. So it's just like, all right, so now that we all know that, it's like, all right. So, but going forward for tonight,
But just to clarify, Matt, on the warrant,
It's Board of Selectmen.
It's Board of Selectmen.
Okay.
So it wasn't,
Yes.
the Board of Selectmen wasn't promoting or forwarding a bylaw that was going to be foisted on another board.
okay.
When I composed these, I composed both versions because by and large, what you find in other communities, although not exclusively, but by and large, it is the Board of Health that oversees this. But I did find one or two examples, and a lot of what I wrote is cobbled together from those other examples. I did find one or two examples where it did fall under the Board of Selectmen, so it can be either or.
All right, great, excellent, thank you. So I think for tonight, I think to start off the conversation is just to kind of clarify what I had envisioned for the plastic bag ban, whereas the drafts kind of had a broader expectation. So for the plastic bags, what I had envisioned for it was just at the point of checkout. So when you go into Shaw's, you can still use the plastic bag to gather your apples and carrots and broccoli and whatever else. Use it to wrap your chicken if you so choose. But when you go to check out, we hope that you have your reusable bag to help reduce the waste. But, everyone isn't perfect. I forget my bags at times, and I understand that we still need something in place of the plastic bags, where it would be a stitched handle paper bag at checkout. So there will be no charge because Hanson wouldn't have the authority as a town to charge for each bag or anything like that. In regards to the polystyrene, I know in the letter, in the writing here, it said everything that's polystyrene, which would include plastic utensils, the covers to the Dunkin' Donut lids or coffee lids, and the clamshells and the styrofoam cups themselves. I kind of want to water that down a little bit just because I think that's very aggressive and we're not quite there yet where we would have substitutes, easy and affordable substitutes for all of that. So what I'm looking for the polystyrene ban would just be the coffee cup itself and the takeout containers, the clamshells. And I think there are replacements for those that are affordable, that's not going to bankrupt any businesses or be out of reach for any consumer. So that's what I was kind of hoping for tonight.
All right, so Matt, so this line that says plates, cups, bowls, trays, hinged liner container, that, excuse me, that you would just like to see styrofoam cups and takeout containers only, and scratch everything else off of there, is that true?
Correct, yep.
Okay.
So, because I think that would be really hard to get Purdue Chicken to stop sending their chicken on a styrofoam tray and stuff like that.
Right,
I don't think
okay,
we
I
have
understand.
those means.
All right. Thank you for clarifying that.
I think probably, depending on which way the conversation goes further on, it's something that you and I can sit down and I can type and make those modifications, you know, as I had mentioned to the board, and I know I mentioned, I think directly to Matt, that the example, the version that I wrote for that particular bylaw, for that ban, I took the extreme, of course, with the intent or the potential intent of watering it down if need be, as opposed to adding. It's always easier to bring something down than to throw some more on. So I kind of fully expected that the board, both with this bylaw and the other potential bylaw, would come back with, you know, suggestions of how we wanted to modify it. So, and at the end of the day, after we sit, this board and I sit and, you know, we make whatever changes you're comfortable with, then it goes to town council anyway, and that might get modified a little bit more. So it's, you know, with pretty much, with the exception of the perfunctory questions that are on the warrant every year, we tend to see modifications as we get to final publication of the warrant to most of the articles, based on town council's input.
So I think now we should hear the Board of Health's.
So this, as it stands, is Board of Selectmen. You would enact it, so this wouldn't have nothing to do with the Board of Health. This is being put through under the Board of
And Mike,
Selectmen.
does it have to stay that way?
That's
It
the
could
way
be
it's in
either
the
or.
warrant?
Well, it could be
But the
either
warrant-
or. The warrant, well,
Here's the elephant in the room. How the heck are we going to enforce, as the Board of Selectmen, this regulation? I read it and I went, I personally am not planning on going around restaurants and monitoring whether they've got clamshells
No,
or
I
not.
would-
That's why
So-
I asked Kenny, do you have money for a person that you're gonna hire?
Right.
Right.
That's gonna implement, educate, and then enforce?
my intention, and it hasn't been fully vetted yet, but my intention was that if this were to go forward under the auspices, under the authority of the Board of Selectmen, as I would speak with the building department and have our building inspector do that, because I don't think it's, as far as I can tell, I don't think it's going to be an awful lot of, not institutions, what am I looking for, not facilities. There's not going to be a lot of places, I think, that he's going to have to go and check on those things, so.
But our part-time building inspector, who's already part-time in our town and already being split between Whitman and Hanson, I do not think is a good, and I also wonder if he might not feel as though that's not within his purview.
Yeah. Mr. Dyer.
So that's a great question of who would be enforcing this. And I'll volunteer myself, seeing how I'm bringing it forward here, to be the initial enforcement officer. I understand when I kick the bucket, get voted out of office, or something happens, I'm not going to be here. But I think the biggest thing is the changeover. So as long as I'm living and I'm still in office, I'll be more than happy to do this. And I think the big thing is change. Once you get it changed, businesses aren't going to change back once it has happened. So the implementation is the biggest step.
Right, yeah,
And I think, and the one other thing I wanted to clarify too was, I would hope to see this enacted by July 2020. So that would give all the businesses a year and all the consumers a year to adjust into, you know, making sure that you remember your your reusable bag when you go to the store, you know, get used to the paper cup if you so choose not to use a reusable cup. But you know what I mean, I wouldn't mind being the enforcement officer for the time being, and go from there.
Matt, I totally appreciate your passion for this, and I understand that you, in all sincerity, mean that you would be the enforcement officer. But I think when we're putting something forth, we need to think about the sustainability of the proposal that we're putting forward. So I would really like to see us work with the Board of Health and have Arlene potentially offer up the health agent as the person who would be the enforcement officer.
I was just gonna mention that, wouldn't that,
This is,
Yeah.
really fall under
Well,
Yeah, I
health
think
and the
I
health
think
We
agent?
need to ask as an elected board if they would be.
yeah, because if
Yeah.
you look, I went on, I think it's Green Mass. I would say of all the towns that have already enacted it, there may be one or two that have, it falls under the Board of Selectmen. Everywhere else, it's Board of Health.
And under the Board of Health, who's the enforcement agent on it?
Absolutely.
No,
Yes.
who?
The
Yes.
health agent.
Oh,
It's
it would
the
be
health
health
agent
agent. It's the
himself.
health agent. Oh,
Which right now,
absolutely.
we don't have one.
Well, we have people that we use. We don't have somebody
On a
that's here, but we have
consulting
consultants that we use
Yeah.
to cover.
Okay,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they would be the
They
enforcement
would
officer
be the enforcement officer.
on this.
The other issue is, once you enact this, we're now gonna ask people to stop using their plastic bags. They're gonna switch over to paper. That increase in paper is gonna end up at the transfer station, and it's gonna cost us a lot more to recycle, money that we don't have.
Do we have a sensibility of like for every plastic bag, it's one for one, or
The bags, the places that I've been, the bags are so bad, if you put more than one or two things in it, the bags break, depending on where you go. So even if it's not one-on-one, it is still gonna significantly increase the amount that we're getting at the transfer station. And before, last year, we didn't pay for recycling. We paid just for transportation to take it. Now we're paying for transportation and like $68 a ton to have the recycling taken away.
and we know
That's
that
gonna
that's something
increase.
we all have to talk about prospectively, what we're gonna
Yes,
do. That's
what we're gonna do.
But you're just saying this is gonna exacerbate what's already.
What's already a problem.
So what happens to your plastic bags right now?
The plastic bags go to Shaw's.
No, I'm saying as far as recycle.
They go to Shaw's. They go to Shaw's, they go to any of the retail establishments that hand them out. They all have receptacles where you can put them there, and then they recycle them.
Or they-
You're saying no?
That's
Or they get thrown away.
No, I'm sure they do,
Oh.
but that's not happening. Those pictures,
Yeah.
Wes, it's not happening with the plastic bag.
He's saying people are dumping them out their car window, they're putting them in the trash.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
Nope.
That looks like it's at a
Yeah,
That's it caught in the machines.
Yep,
Yeah.
so the plastic bags are actually being put into
Recycle.
the recycling, which is causing the.
Oh, I know. I have pictures. I've been to 2 or 3 different places where this is a problem.
If we started using the paper bags may cause an increase, but it would be a decrease in man hours used to separate the plastic bags with a utility knife.
right.
If you get people to not use the plastic bags at all. I'm not saying that you shouldn't have a ban on the plastic bags, but you need to look at what the result is going to be. You're going to decrease the plastic, you're going to increase our costs at a time when nobody wants to give us any money. You
So I
know?
guess, isn't that the fundamental question here tonight? Do we all agree, as the Board of Health and as the Selectmen, that we want to pursue the ban? And if so, then talking about responsibilities and timeline.
But I don't think you can do that from May's town meeting. I think that's too soon. I think there's lots of things that need to be worked out before we move forward. There's lots of problems. Not to say that we shouldn't have a ban. The key thing that really should be happening is that we should be educating people to bring reusable bags. And that should be the focus. Not banning the plastic, bringing their own reusable bags and reducing waste all over, along with a couple of other things that we have no control over. But that should be the prime focus. You want people to bring their own bags and reuse them.
From the Maytown meeting, which Matt is proposing,
Yes.
until the date of July 20th, which, Matt, you said,
Right.
that's 14 months.
But you're enacting this.
But that's 14 months to educate them
That,
on how to
I'm
do
not
it
real
right.
happy with this. I think there's issues with this, with what the bylaw that you're enacting. You're gonna enforce $50 fine or $100 fine. Where does that go? Does it go into general funds? Is the Board of Selectmen collecting that? Is the Board of Health collecting it? And if we're collecting it, where does it go? Does it go into education? Does it go into a separate fund? Where does that go?
So let me ask another question. So if we were to wait, because I understand both sides, and I'm on the fence, I'm trying to understand both sides. If we did this in October, Matt, could we still implement it on July 1st, 2020, but still satisfy the Board of Health with the education and her concerns?
Sure.
Is that,
Sure, you could do that, but now you have to think about it. So if we implement it in October, then this goes to the Attorney General, and the Attorney General has to sign off on this.
right.
And that could take a few months depending on
Yeah,
what's going on up in Boston. And then, if it gets enacted, you think you're only looking at a few months for this to be implemented. So now you're asking a business owner who may stockpile these plastic bags to say, all right, time to get rid of your plastic bags in 8 months, rather than giving them 14 months to, transition. So,
Has anybody talked to any of the local businesses?
I have, yep. I've been starting to go around, just saying hi, coming by to get your input on this. I talked to Shaw's, and Shaw's just said, it's just a matter of time that we're going to transition into.
So that doesn't
new
mean that
plastic
they have to
bags.
wait 14 months. They
So-
could start now. If they know that Hanson is working on a ban and then
Right.
eventually we're going to implement
Right.
one, they can start looking now at what they can do.
Yeah, because I'm
It's
not
not
against
asking them
I'm
to
not
wait.
against the ban
I'm
at
not
all,
against the ban either.
but you bring up some good points, about education and fines and money, and I think we should iron that out, and I don't know if we can do that
Well,
before.
I think we could do that tonight, is just say, all right, just like any other fee that goes through the Board of Health, someone has a food violation, where does that money go?
It goes into for the general fund.
So then, just like that, we put it into the general fund.
But then we have to fight with the finance committee to get it back?
There is no getting it. Once it goes in the general fund, there
It's
is no
gone.
getting it back.
It is gone.
It's gone.
So it really doesn't benefit us to enforce this because it's not helping pay for any of our time.
Well, none of us are here to benefit of it.
No, but I'm saying,
None of us are here to
but I'm saying
benefit
if
of
you're
war.
sending the health agent out and the health agent has to enforce all of
She's
this
saying
stuff.
she's paying out, but she's not.
I'm gonna pay out
Yeah.
because the health agent could be doing something else. They can be doing food inspections. But now they're doing other enforcement, but the money's gonna go into the general fund.
Not if you
But-
create a revolving account, we could look into doing that.
Yeah, I don't know that we need another revolving.
Didn't Todd tell us he didn't
We-
want
we're
any
trying to
more
get
revolving
less.
accounts?
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't know what revolving, I don't know.
And I do agree with one thing that
It's
Matt
direct.
said as well, that the enforcement is just initially. Once you go to the ban, pretty much everyone's gonna be on board. So how much enforcement after, let's say after July 1st, once you have Shaw's that switches over in the food, how much enforcement in 5 years? Once people switch over, it's either they switched over or they didn't.
It's the transition.
Right, it's a transition, it's up until that point, I think, is where all your enforcement. But
And
I
I
think
think-
after that, I think it would be much easier.
I think to Matt's point, I thought I had written it this way, the effective date can be a sliding date based on whatever the latest date is in terms of approval. I think I had put in there 6 months or 9 months, or whatever it is.
did
But
say
can-
6
It
months
can be
somewhere.
whatever it is from the time of the vote,
Enactment.
or the time that it is approved by the Attorney General,
Right.
whichever's later. So you're still, one way or the other, you can put in there that time frame that you feel is appropriate for people to get used to it.
So how much, does anybody know how much time from when the Attorney General approves this until we actually implement that date? How much
Oh, I
time
thought you
needs to
meant,
be between
I thought you
there?
meant how quick the Attorney General is.
No,
using
I know
it.
the answer to that
Well,
question.
it's sliding. It's a matter of, like I said, if whoever's the proponent of this, which is kind of Matt at this point, if in his looking at how it's been done in other places and what he is comfortable with is a year, it sounds like it's a year, that's kind of what you're looking at, then it's just 12 months from whatever is later, from either the vote
The
of
date.
town meeting or the date that we get it back from the Attorney General's office. And whatever establishments that need to adhere to this still have that time frame. We just write it up that way, which, again, I thought I wrote
They
up
would
there.
all
I think
have to
it's-
be
I
notified.
just don't see that as an issue. It's like,
You
if
think there's
worded
enough time?
worded that way, you know what, this is one of those, I'm just getting old. I really watch the environment degrade. And it is so easy to throw roadblocks in front of any legislation, anything. You know what, there really is not a person in the country who doesn't know that carrying a reusable bag shopping is a good thing. But why do it if
you're not
there's no
required to.
reason? I'm amazed. I'm amazed when I go to the gym in the morning and think of all my friends, all these people who are really concerned for the futures of their grandchildren and beyond. Entirely pickup trucks, 1-ton pickup trucks, Hummers. It's like, how concerned are you really?
Well, as long as the gas prices are what they are.
And exactly. You know,
Mine's only at 150.
there's no reason to stop,
Change their
to
habits?
change your habits. There's no reason for me not to even drive my Tacoma pickup.
So what you're saying is that you believe that there is enough time to implement it, pretty much what Matt is saying.
I think what Mike just said, if you're saying it's a sliding time frame from the time the Attorney General says yes, and you're giving a year, anything can be accomplished
I feel
in a
comfortable
year.
with that too, but I think my thing is, I just want to make sure that the Board of Health, as another elected board, doesn't feel as though we're cramming it down your throat or making you, you know what I mean? Like, I know you guys are on board, but I'm trying to be thoughtful about what considerations do you guys have that we might not be aware of. I'm totally in favor of this, and I'm in favor of an aggressive yet thoughtful implementation. So I, want to be thoughtful about where you guys are coming from.
Well, I'm thinking the public should know
And so that's why the meeting next week?
that, no, I think the public should know that for how many years now has there not been a full Board of Health? How long have we been waiting for third member? Arlene and Gil have been the Board of Health. No one else is stepping up to the plate. When are we going to find a health agent who is certified in all the necessary registrations? When will that happen?
When we pay.
Well, no one in Hanson is jumping to run for election for the Board of Health.
Even they could have gotten appointed even. We had a period of time this year when,
I mean, Arlene and Gil are handling this entire ship. So, I mean, I do feel the people right in this room right now, we're doing this together. And I think we are ramming it down Arlene and Gil's throats, or our throats, or Mike's throats. I think that's what we're doing. But if we wait until someday someone decides, let's have a third member of the Board of Health, and let it be me, I will run. If we wait for the time when they actually have the means, I think that's the wrong word, but till they have the means to support this, when do you think that might happen?
I'm not saying that we
anybody's
don't, we have
suggesting
not
that.
said
I
that we
totally
don't.
get it. But we are, I think we on the board especially, it's like, well, I agree with Arlene. I think if almost every community in the Commonwealth is putting this under the auspices of the Board of Health. Well, I think we should too. It's not something
do
that
too.
I want, but I also agree with Matt. It's like, how many establishments in town are dealing in plastic bags and polystyrene that will be affected in the course of that year? In Maine, I never see polystyrene. All takeout, everything is done in
Because
paper.
they did it years ago.
It's all, I mean, so other places do it. It's like we're the ones who are lagging.
Wes, you said someday. Someday is today.
I think so,
We
too.
have the power in this room to make that someday today. The big businesses like Shaw's, Dunkin' Donuts, they could switch over tomorrow.
They have all
The
over
smaller
the place.
business, like, and I don't want to give anybody a plug, but we have tons of smaller businesses. Sandy's Coffee Corner, Mike's House of Pizza, they're not buying their plastic bags a year in advance. They're probably doing a month or 2 months. So they could easily get it set up for July 1, 2020. There's no small business that's buying their plastic bags a year in advance.
Matt, have you checked with the restaurants on, that's the piece that I'm a little, like, the plastic bag thing, I get, I don't think that there's gonna be a lot of pushback on that. But the clamshells, I just don't know who uses polystyrene, who doesn't, and is it cost neutral? Because we have small businesses struggling in town as it is.
No, absolutely, and that's why I said, I'm not going to force this down anyone's throat, not by any means, especially if it means it's going to hinder their business. But from my understanding, I'm good friends with a small business owner over in Brockton who sells coffee, and I said, what's the cost difference between a styrofoam cup and a paper cup?
Yeah.
She said, pennies. So it's not that it's going to force anyone to close doors because the paper cups, really was a cost burden. And then also, too, you can pass, I mean, if there is a cost of 5 cents or whatever per cup, then pass it on to the consumer. And hopefully the consumer says, oh, wow, this 5 cents is really breaking the bank. I'm going to bring my reusable cup, where most places offer a discount. Dunkin' Donuts offers a discount. You brought your reusable cup, we'll save you 30 cents or whatever it may be. And then the other point I was going to say, the reason why communities say the Board of Health is going to be the enforcement officer is because they're already going into these businesses, and it's just another checkbox at the end of the form. Like, okay, everything passes safe serve, and also you don't have any plastic bags in the building. That's as simple as it is. That's the only reason why the Board of Health and most communities are doing it. And I spoke with our surrounding communities to ask, what did you guys do for education of the public, and what kind of budget did you have to, for this kind of campaign, and how much of a burden has it been? They all said, we did no education as the town. We had no money to do a campaign, and there has been very little resistance on the enforcement aspect of things. Everyone complied. They said, okay, great, and they all moved on.
Well, I think too,
Well, I know Kingston set aside $4,000, and they're waiting, they're doing a year of education and then implementing their ban.
What did Halifax do?
They're still working on this, I think.
Yeah,
'Cause
Halifax
I
still has
talked to
plastic.
their health agent last week. They're still working on this. They're working out the bylaw
I know.
part of it. They haven't implemented anything
I
yet.
know that Mansfield did nothing because it was actually it
Petition.
was a petition
Citizens
article.
petition, so
Yeah.
you didn't have a
And-
choice.
And it was written wrong too, but I already discussed that with
Right.
them.
I mean, I
But-
guess
but I
there's
guess
two
the point
ways
I was
that you
gonna
can do
make-
it. You can do, just unilaterally, we say, look, we're being informational and educational, but we're not really looking for feedback. We're not really looking for, and we could certainly do that. We're empowered. Everybody sitting here is empowered to put this on the warrant and put it to the voters. Or we could take a slightly different approach, which would be to try to engage and change behaviors. Not all behaviors, because some people are the hell no, they're not going to tell me what to do with my plastic bags. If I want to trash up the earth, I'm going to trash it up. How dare you tell me what to do? And you're not going to change those minds. You're just not. I
I think you need to do both.
I really like the idea of I don't want to kick the can down the road, okay? I'm extremely hesitant to do that. But I feel like in order to get some engagement and a little bit more support in the community, and instead of it being us dictating and more people saying, you know what, now that I've learned about this, I agree. And what's 6 months? Is that going to kill us? What's 6 months? If we waited till the October town warrant, couldn't we achieve everything that we've talked about here? And you'd feel better, it would get done. I know, Matt, you really wanted it for May, but I just, and I just feel like we wouldn't be alienating anybody. We'd have more time to talk and be responsive to the small, like the restaurants, and just be like, hey, you've been given fair warning, transition, let us know if there's some kind of an impact, we certainly have the ability to dictate, but we are a democracy, and yes, ultimately people will be voting on it, but I just like the idea of engagement, of making sure that we've vetted this, and I wish we had really talked about this like maybe more like in the January timeframe. It started, and then I think it would have been a fine to do it, probably for the town, the town meeting. And if you want to still keep running like crazy and see if we can do this all by May, I'm fine with that. And then we can always pass over if we don't think we've gotten sufficient buy-in. I'm fine either way, but I just would like to see us work
Matt,
a little
excuse me
bit.
for 1 minute. Laura, on April 2nd, during the Selectmen's meeting, we're going to have a plastic bag forum.
Yes, I know that.
Okay. Town meeting coming up in May. Whether the plastic bag is on there or not, we'll be lucky if we get 125 people. If we wait until October's town meeting, we're going to get 125 people, and all we've done is wasted 6 months.
I see that perspective, and I acknowledge that.
We're not going to have any more plastic bag forums or anything else that I can see in the future. We have one, it's going to be up to the people.
Actually, I'm curious, Mike, Mary Ann, are there any towns that have voted down a plastic bag ban?
Not that I'm aware of.
No, I don't know.
And is it only going to be on the town warrant? It's not going to, we're not,
No, that doesn't go to ballot.
Okay,
No.
all right.
It's a bylaw.
Yeah.
So,
The point I wanted to make, if I may, I think the real question here, in terms of timing, is, and I can't answer this question, but would the Board of Health be willing to take up the gauntlet on this if it were something that was passed on until October? I think that would be the only advantage to waiting, if the Board of Health at that point would have a level of comfort, which understandably, they haven't had a good chance to take a look at it just yet.
Right.
If it went to October, would you be more inclined to be the sponsor of this and be the enforcement authority? And then that would negate the need for, the transitionary of you, if you're not a selectman anymore, you know what I'm saying? And then, of course, because we're always gonna have a Board of Health.
Right.
I mean, I feel a little awkward saying this, Arlene, but are you willing, and I know we're kind of doing this a little backwards, but is it possible for you and Gil to get on board for a May thing? Would you be willing to really put your heads together?
Have you
and-
even seen it?
I really read it, but I mean, I'm in favor of the ban, but I'd like to say a few things too, but being trash is the responsibility of the Board of Health anyhow.
Yes.
because, But I'd like to see it extended a little bit, because most of the people in town don't know about this. And the history of Hanson voting, you surprise the older generation, they're gonna turn something down. And all I can think about is the little ladies and guys carrying their bags from Shaw's, the plastic bags from Shaw's and whatnot. They're gonna be thinking about this, so I think the education is the most important thing here. Look, warn the people, the town of Hanson is discussing a plastic bag ban, they're gonna enforce it in a year. I think most towns, California did it in 2 years, right, when they did their ban? They did 2 years of education before they banned it. I think most towns are doing that. I think extend a little bit, tell the people what to do. Because you got a lot of elderly voters here. You got people that are gonna come and say, hey, wait, do I wanna do this? Because Hanson's got a history of that.
Yeah.
Gil, this is only going to town meeting though.
They will.
Yeah, but
No,
but
he's
he's saying
right,
that
he's
still.
right. And
I've
give it-
gone to town meeting and
Yeah.
have been asked to vote on stuff that I had no idea what they were talking
So I
about.
think education is gonna be the most important thing. And myself, I'm in favor of it, but I'm not in favor of substitutions. You go to these coffee shops that have recycled cups and whatnot, the cups are twice as hot as a regular styrofoam cup. But that's beside the point. Replacement, how many businesses in Hanson talking here? How many actual businesses are there in town of Hanson that are using bags? Has that been estimated or guessed yet?
That I know of. A lot of convenience stores and like Mike's doesn't even use plastic bags.
Well, I
Use
use,
paper.
I use them because
That's
of
true.
the
Yep,
They use paper.
yeah.
clamshells. There's a
Yeah.
place in Hanover that I just recently got a sub at, and it came in a cardboard box.
And I've gone to places where I've had the recycled paper containers for food. I don't know what the cost is for those. That's something I'd have to look into. And I personally don't feel like I have the time from now to May to look at all of that stuff. How do I know if I'm impacting if I haven't done my homework?
Then,
And I don't have time to do it.
to Mike's question, are you guys comfortable in October?
Definitely by October, there's plenty of time between now and October.
Right, because I would like
Do
to
the
see that
education.
proposed by you guys too.
Yeah,
I would too.
yeah.
So,
And I would like to look at
all right,
this
so
and make
let's
sure that
summarize
there's
here.
not loopholes in this.
So Matt, because I'm sympathetic to both sides. I absolutely would want to see it coming from the Board of Health, and Matt, you bring up good points, and I agree with you on everything you said. But could we at least, after hearing both sides, if the Board of Health is willing to take this up in October, just to allow them some time for some more education and, and doing some more stuff? Or do we,
Sure.
trying to do it now? Let him go first, then I'll ask you.
All right, so I have a couple quick points.
Okay.
Back in 2008, Dunkin' Donuts said, we need to stop using polystyrene cups because, one, they're horrible, they're not going to decompose, and they also contain carcinogenics. So when you get a hot coffee from Dunkin' Donuts, you're drinking carcinogenics that it's going to cost you some sort of cancer later down the road. That was back in 2008. Dunkin' Donuts has not moved the needle one bit. They just renewed their commitment just a few months ago, saying we're going to go to paper cups, but they haven't. It's because government regulation has been kind of pushing them in that direction. The other part of it is 30, 40 years ago, before me, I heard that you guys only had paper bags. There wasn't plastic bags. This isn't we didn't evolve with the plastic bag and now it's time to say goodbye to it. So, but I'm fine with it if we want to push it to the fall meeting. But I want an end date.
I think that's the date.
July 1st, 2020.
It-
Well, do you
I've
want
never
that
been
in?
to a Dunkin' Donuts that have got a styrofoam cup.
Oh,
It's always
yeah.
paper.
No, they do the, yeah.
Really?
Dunkin'
Yes.
Donuts?
Yeah.
I get tea. I always
Do you
get.
get-
Oh,
get a
that's
small-
why.
That-
Yeah,
I
you
get
get the
tea.
little one.
I get tea.
Definitely.
And a lot of people complain if they don't get the styrofoam cup.
And Matt,
That's-
it's only for,
yeah.
I'm on board with this, 100%. It's just the education, you know, what
So, and then,
Gilby
that was my
said.
last point.
And
is-
I'm fine with what you just said, as long as you would be willing to wait, if the Board of Health would take this on in October, but keep the date of July 1, 2020,
Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah. And then the last part I was going to say is Green Hanson has been around now for about 10 years, trying to educate everyone here in Hanson and on the South Shore too about environmental concerns, and plastic bags has been one of them. We've showed, or Green Hanson has shown, Bag It, which is a documentary about plastic bags. We've had all sorts of outreach events. And have we seen the needle move any bit? A little bit. We've seen a little bit of movement towards people using reusable bags. But I'm just saying, education right now is going to have a very small impact, unfortunately. I wish everyone would become educated and they would see the light. But I'm fine with it if we want to push it off to the fall. But we have the stop-end date of July 1st, 2020.
I guess to that,
I
I
agree.
would go back to what we were talking about before in terms of, a sliding date. If the Attorney General doesn't get back to us in a timely manner, then, you winnow down that timeframe.
But Mike, the year
original
from a sliding date, I think that's too long.
Huh?
So if let's say that we approve it at town meeting in October,
And then it goes to the
let's say
Attorney
the Attorney
General.
General approves it in May 1st of 2020, we can't, you said a year before, we
What
can't wait
about
another
nine
year.
months?
I'm comfortable with
No.
whatever Matt thinks should be the timeframe.
Yeah.
But what I had
Okay.
said originally, and it's up to you guys, but what I had said originally was if the timeframe, because at that point, the timeframe is a year. If we did it in May,
Yeah.
if the town did it in May, we're looking at it being implemented a year from now. So if it's done in October, now you've winnowed down that time frame that originally everybody was comfortable with. Now, does it have to be a year? I don't know, but I think that what you need to do is to take into consideration that the Attorney General is going to get back to us quicker than May of the following year. But the Attorney General's office, it could be a 2 or 3 month sort of delay. And how would that impact, at least in your opinion, the time frame that you feel comfortable with in terms of implementation? Now, if you feel that it's a 6 months or 8 months or whatever, then I don't see any reason
I
why.
don't think we need
This
to, I don't
effective
think,
date on here says within 6 months following Attorney General's approval.
Yeah, that's the
Or
way
then
it-
it had
that
a
would be fine,
date.
but I don't think, excuse me, we don't need to set the date now. You know,
Well,
if we're gonna have an agreement to go to October, like Matt said, I agree with
got
that
time.
July 1st. We've got time to set the
Well,
dates.
well,
We all
well,
know we're gonna be on the same
well,
page and we
the-
wanna implement it as soon as
Well,
possible.
the only problem is, and I mean, it's not to put Matt on the spot, but Matt is acquiescing. This is his baby. He's
Right.
acquiescing to waiting it up to October, Matt, but, Matt wants to have it, implemented by.
He wants a date.
He wants a date.
Right,
So-
but that,
Yeah.
But that being said, I mean, if Matt has to be comfortable with basically, again, acquiescent to backing off on doing this in May as a Board of Selectmen initiative and giving it to the Board of Health, I mean, are you going to be comfortable with the time frame? Because the time frame, again, it's
So
a very
Matt,
good
what we
chance
gotta
it's going to be
find out, I
short. Is
think-
that,
Right. Well, what I was going to say is I don't see the Attorney General saying, "Whoa, you guys are pretty radical down in
Right.
Hanson, passing something that 81
Right.
other
no,
communities have
it'll,
done."
it'll,
Right.
it'll be
Right.
It's just a
approved.
matter of time.
So I
Yeah.
think we
When?
should just stick a date, July 1st, 2020, and I think that would give plenty of time for the
Yeah.
Attorney General to say, "Yep," and
I'm
for
fine
our
with that.
businesses to say, "All right, it's coming."
but also, in the meantime, I would look into other communities and see what the difference, and you don't have to do this right away, but see what the difference is from when it's approved from the Attorney General until that date is implemented. And then you can adjust it. I'm fine with whatever date you come up with.
Well, the
You know what
other-
I mean? You don't want it to get approved in June, and then July 1st, in 2 weeks, we're gonna implement it.
Well, the other thing, and I thought I had written it in there, or it may have been in terms of the
Bags.
bags, yeah, is that I believe that I put in there that establishments over 3,500 square feet, blah, 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 you know, it'd affect them earlier than it would affect the smaller businesses. So you give the smaller businesses more time to
Yeah.
adapt and modify it.
Yep.
And as I think plenty of people, I think Wes brought it up, and I can attest to it in my own town, you know, Shaw's, all they do is probably click their fingers and a week later, the plastic bags are there. It's not gonna be an issue for them.
Right.
But in terms of a smaller outfit, you know, there's a very good chance, and they probably don't order a whole hell of a lot of stuff ahead of time, but they might have. So what you do in some of...
But this exempts them.
Yeah, exactly. In some of the verbiage that I've provided, it's more of a sliding time frame for the smaller places to you let them kind of just winnow down what they've got on stock. So, but that could potentially affect the full time frame or the deadline.
But
So, I mean,
what I'm
that's
saying is
something else
Matt
we just
can-
need to
Matt
consider.
can be the one that comes back-
The smaller places need to have a little more breathing.
Matt can be the one, Mike, that comes back to this board and gives us his suggestions as far as the dates.
Yep.
The
And the
fine
language,
with the
the
dates is
language
with-
in here definitely needs to be tightened
Yeah,
up.
and that
Because
will
what
give us
you
time.
said was, and under 3,500 feet, they would be, this says they would be exempt, and they could continue using plastic bags, and that they just would have to have
So we've
provide
gotta
a
look at the article.
Yeah.
recyclable spot for them, which is different
Right.
from what you just
So
said. about
does
them-
so I'm gonna ask a
It
question,
just has to be tightened up.
is the Board of Health willing to be taking up this?
For October.
In October,
In
Gilly?
October, with the eye towards the July 2020 implementation,
Not a
if
problem.
possible.
And then you
It
guys
definitely
will-
has to be cleaned up.
And then you guys will work with Matt, you know, as far as, okay?
Yeah, I have questions for you.
Mary, I was just, I know you had a question earlier and I didn't wanna lose my train, so you have the floor.
Sure, I'm Mary Devasio. I've been with Extraordinary Green Hanson about 10 years ago. And one thing that was said before, the percentage of plastic bags that are recycled, the single-use plastic bags, is about 5.6%. So,
Okay.
you know, very small
So
percentage.
Jim's right.
Yes, very small percentage are going back right now. I think Green Hanson might be able to help with some education at some
Awesome.
point. We, years ago, bought the film Bagot for the middle school.
Oh, you do have
And we showed that film, and it would be great if we could have a joint Board of
Showing.
Health, Green Hanson, Selectmen showing
Yeah,
of the
absolutely.
film. Because you look at that film and you're like, oh, I'm not.
And after talking all this through tonight, and I'm glad we had the meeting, I think this definitely makes sense. This is gonna make everyone, you know, happier. The education, I think, is important. Although, like I said, I'm for it 100%, but I'd like it to go through the Board of Health, and I think more education. And I know you guys have been working for 10 years in the education, but, well, I think this is.
Maybe
we're-
people will sit up and take notice when it's actually going to impact them
Yeah.
and they need to know.
Right.
But to Gil's point, I'm wondering if we might be able to also work with Mary Collins and do some education at the senior center? If we think
Absolutely.
that that's a group that we might need to work with?
Yeah, no, absolutely, because I was talking to the Board of Health agent over in Abington today, and he did say, the only hindsight that I have for the styrofoam cups is how hot the cup actually gets. And people with diabetes, they don't
Oh.
have quite the feeling in
says
their
here,
hands.
they have to have
So some people were actually getting burned.
Wow.
So,
In-store collection,
Slip
like to probably
covers.
recycle.
right, exactly. So what he recommended was slip covers, or even just really promoting that idea of bringing your own cup. But he said, absolutely keep on going 100% with it.
Right, okay.
As
So is everybody, go ahead.
Okay, with the Board of Health taking it over, and Matt, I know this is your baby, so you can ask Mike, but, with the Health Department taking it over for the, October town meeting.
Yep.
I would like, Mike, I'm sorry, a monthly report, or should I say, Matt would like a monthly report, at the Selectmen's meeting from the Board of Health. They don't have to be here,
Matt's coming with us to work on this.
okay?
He can give you
So-
a report.
Okay. I just, what I'm afraid of is that we're talking education, education, education.
And then we don't.
And
First, we have to talk
there's
about
one
fixing
forum
this.
in September, just
Yeah.
before the meeting.
No.
I do this for a
Yeah.
living, Arlene. I work for Public Services.
Yep.
I am on the ground level. I do residential household pickup of trash. A vacuum cleaner in their recycling toter is not trash.
You've missed the bowling ball in the recycling.
Yes, or the microwave oven. I see it every day
That's
in
lazy.
the
That's
town I
not being
work in.
uneducated. That's being lazy and not wanting to pay
Yeah.
for it.
Well-
That is totally different.
Jim's just concerned, he doesn't want it to fall by the wayside, and we're sitting here in
Absolutely will not.
September, and we haven't done any
No.
education, we haven't done any meetings or anything, and we're
Well,
sitting
like
back
this.
going, hey, we're all busy,
No.
we're sorry, and now we're a month away from October town
Which
meeting.
is the same thing as we're doing right
Right.
now.
No.
Great point, good.
Okay, has anybody reached out to South Shore Recycling? I noticed they've got a good commercial on WATD,
Yes.
and it runs like every half hour.
Yep.
You should listen to it, it's one of the plastic bag bans and stuff, which is very good. Now, has anybody
It
reached out
helps
to
us with our
them?
DEP funds.
Well, that's another source, that's a good one. But, I mean, you know, South Shore Recycling, we are a member, you know, of them and everything, and, you know, the education, like I
I
said.
think this
you
is
get it-
something
you
South
get
Shore
it,
Recycling would probably support.
You know, yeah, they do, because they're.
15, of the 15 towns that are in South Shore Recycling right now, probably 8 have bans. And they're all different.
Right.
They're all different in how they went about doing it.
Okay. All right, so you guys are good, Mr. Bloss? Are you good?
Matt, am I good?
Yep, you're good.
Laura, you good?
I am good. I want to thank Matt for bringing this and being passionate about it and driving it through, and I hope you're not feeling disappointed.
No, not at all.
But, because we support this, we support it.
So I have a question. Mr. Bloss, do you want to come and help craft this bylaw with Matt and the Board of Health?
If you want me to, I would. I'm not sure what expertise
If
I
it's-
bring to it, but I would certainly not be adverse to helping out.
You're-
But the only thing I'll tell you, if it's this week, you might have to wheel him there.
No, not this week. Where's he
Made up
going?
what?
Wheel him there.
Oh, you might.
You might.
I think you're expert wordsmithing
And
could be
then
used.
the last question I have for you, Mr. Chair, and Arlene and Gil, is next week we have a forum.
Yes.
Would you like to continue with that? And it might be a
Oh,
good.
absolutely.
No.
No,
2
it's not
weeks.
so much.
2 weeks, sorry, yeah,
Okay,
2 weeks.
it's in 2 weeks, but I want to get an idea of what the public knows and what the public wants, and how engaged the public is going to be.
Yeah, good idea.
I talked to somebody today who was telling me there was a change that was gonna happen, and they said, oh, well, I put signs over here, and I'm like, but you just can't do that. You can't put a sign in one place that people might not see it. If you're going to educate people, you've got to reach out in a couple of different ways. Because I know if I get there, and yet I go there specifically to do one thing, and there's a sign right at the door when I get there, I'm pissed off. Because I should have known that ahead of time, and you should have told me that ahead of time. And now I'm mad. Because now I've added this into my errands, and I expected to drop this off here, and now I can't, and you didn't bother to tell me.
Right.
I don't want people going away feeling like that. Next year I'll have you come and sit with us after Christmas. when
Yes,
we do
I
the
was gonna
wrapping
say,
paper.
this
'Cause
reminds me
people
of the
wanted to kill the
Christmas
attendance because at
wrapping
the last
debacle.
minute, they got there and said, what do you mean we can't put that in recycling? You can't surprise people with stuff. You really do have to give them information in advance.
All right, well, I'll say that was a very productive meeting. I came in here at 7 o'clock, ready to support this thing, let's move forward, but I'm smart enough to know that when my peers and other members of other boards speak and I start learning more and all that, hey, I can change my mind for the better, and I think that's what happened. So I'd like to thank everybody who participated, the audience for coming, and yes.
One more.
I wanted a little bit of Hanson history. Hanson has been.
Keep
a
it
leader-
brief, like 30 seconds.
We got
Hanson has been a leader
6
in
minutes.
recycling, going back 35 years ago.
Okay.
We're one of the first towns to recycle. We've got all kinds of accommodations from DEP and EPA on what we've done according to waste bans and stuff. At some point in time, I think like 3 years in a row, we had 46% of our total tonnage recycled. So we're not shy on recycling and whatnot, but you know,
Good.
it's gotta be, you know, trash, gotta be let.
But we need to get better.
We endorse it.
We need
You
to
know,
get
we've done
better.
pretty good, so just gotta get, you know, everybody.
And I
knows
like the
that.
reusable bag, you know, that's, you know, you gotta just, they're like kids, you gotta keep telling them, no, you just gotta keep educating people. Maybe we'll bring in a bag and sit it there for a couple of meetings and educate
And
people.
possibly
Just
look
keep-
for money where we could get
Bags
bags
and-
Yeah.
that we can hand out to people.
Yeah.
We
can't
we've
give
got
up on that.
Hanson
We
Day
can't-
coming up. It
Yep.
would be a great
We
opportunity.
can't give up on that.
Yeah, I'm gonna find out where Kingston got their money. Huh?
Laura just said, may I say something?
Sure, good.
Just a great idea at Hanson Day to have a table about the plastic bag.
Yes.
ban.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good.
I mean,
Excellent. Well, right now I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
The motion's made and seconded. Any other questions? Again, I'd like to thank everyone for coming, and thank you, Carol. All those in favor?
Do Gil and
5-0.
Arlene
Did we
need
get a vote?
to adjourn their meeting too, right? Yeah.
Okay, yes. Seconded. All in favor?
Good night, folks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Aye.